I was the company secretary, and finance manager, administration manager, and HR. And the current VAT Act, I'm the one who came up with it. And most of those mistakes which are there, maybe some of them are mine. Because I always tell people that when I was commissioner.
Some people may come for you.
But when we came up with the rule, we put a Chinese wall. I put in a Chinese wall and say, pension money is not for it.
It's for a specific purpose.
It's for a specific purpose. Therefore, you can't touch it.
So how did it go at Kenya Revenue?
Kenya Revenue is interesting. I was the first financial controller in Kenya Revenue Authority, and I was bringing up all the departments of government, which were basically ministry. So customs was its own, and income tax was its own, and we had the internal revenue on its own. So these institutions are being brought together. So like now, as a financial controller, having to go everywhere to find out where the accounts were, and it was sort of a mess, but start bringing it into a reasonable institution. So the assignment was quite heavy, but because now that time I was a financial controller, I was the administration manager, and I was also the HR. So I was doing all those three jobs.
You did multitasking.
Yes, because there was nobody, we were just starting. And if we were being picked and we were brought together. And it was very interesting assignment. So after some time, they decided that having set up that place, finance, and at least now it was moving, because we started from a very disorganized setup, but now we were able to bring it together. And they decided, the board decided that I should be made the commissioner of VAT to go and set up VAT, because it was also having issues. Yeah, so my appointment was done, because the appointment was being done by President Moi. So the board recommended me to be appointed. Then I was appointed the commissioner of VAT. And I always say, when I was financial controller, what I would say I changed in terms of this country, I introduced the tax you have in the tickets. Remember when you go to buy an airport ticket, the tax is included there. Before, people used to pay cash. Yes, and when people pay cash, there were a lot of losses taking place because we were paying cash. But now after that, I introduced that one, and that changed the way people collect. And the revenue actually doubled, because now it was very easy to account for every money, because it's going through the ticket. Then I was made the commissioner of VAT.
If you allow me, I want to go back to the point you talked about. You are the finance guy, you are the admin person, and you are what else? You are three roles.
Yeah, I was financial controller.
Three major roles.
Manager administration.
Yeah.
And HR.
Now, I want to deal with an issue that has come up today, where it comes to, people in their careers, where I hear people saying, "Oh no, I'm being overworked. Why can't they get someone else to do that job? My main role, my job description in my letter of appointment is this and this." So would you like to comment on that vis-a-vis what sometimes in your journey of growth you really have to do in terms of multitasking to get the job done? Yeah,
it's true. When I came from East Africa, because I started the company, I was the company secretary, and finance manager, administration manager, and HR. I think that's what actually made the board feel, this is a guy who knows all, and we're just starting. Maybe we need somebody. And then that time there was this idea of having combined jobs, where they look for somebody who has multi-jobs. They didn't want to employ so many people, because you're just starting a company, you don't want to employ a financial controller, HR, and whatever. Then they're just starting. So then this was a small institution. So there was no need to afford those things. But then because of my skills and my qualification, it was easy for me to do all those. Then that's how we started at Kenya Revenue Authority. But as the numbers were growing, it became a bit difficult to manage HR as a person and also do the administration.
And admin,
so we started by getting a HR manager from Central Bank. Because the way when we went there, Central Bank used to be the employees of Central Bank were working for Kenya Revenue Authority. Yeah, the board secretary who was Nyaga was the board secretary. I think if you remember the former governor.
Yeah, the former.
Yeah, he was a board secretary. Then I was a financial controller, and then they brought a HR manager also from the seconded to the place. So at least who had a background on HR. Then after that, they also employed an administration manager to now, because the properties were very many. and it was becoming a challenge. So we had to bring up an assistant manager to run the place. It became quite...
I would say that your duty plus attitude, you know, do what needs to be done.
Correct.
It doesn't matter what my job role is.
Correct.
Really got you to the job of the commissioner of VAT after it was set up.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that role?
Yeah, because I think because of that background, I think they realized that I have a general background I could run VAT. Because VAT at that time was an independent institution with its own administration system, with their own HR. It was running very independent of them. They were all independent bodies, VAT, customs, and income tax. They were independent. They had their own act, and you ran your own show as far as the... So that's, I think, why they recommended that I be appointed the Commissioner of Value Tax. As a Commissioner of VAT, the current VAT Act, I'm the one who came up with it. And most of those mistakes which are there, maybe some of them are mine. Because I always tell people that when I was commissioner...
Some people may come for you.
When I was commissioner, I was insisting that the pensions must pay tax, everybody must pay tax. But when I retired, I realized, no, I should have exempted them from taxation, because what they're getting now is very little. So when I became to RBA as a CEO, I even decided to apply to the Treasury to change that law and allow for exemption. But I was being told you are the one who brought this thing.
It's your rule.
Yes, your rule. We don't know why you brought it. So it has to remain there. So I always say people, when you're doing some things, always think sometimes one day you'll be out of the place.
You suffer because of that.
Yes.
Okay. So then you joined the RBA. Was that after the commissioner's role was done?
RBA was a very interesting time because what happened at that time, the governor of central bank, the job was advertised. And when the job was advertised, that they wanted the governor, the head of public service at that time, who was Sally, requested me to work on that also. Put my name for it. So it was myself, Nyaga, and a few others, about 20 of us. So eventually, the names were reduced to 2. That was myself and Nyaga. So at one point, the whole market knew I was going to be the governor, because that was the proposal. But then when the names went to His Excellency, who was going to make the decision, and I think Nyaga's name is known in the family, in the political. It was easy for him to identify with Nyaga than myself. My father, they have never heard the name before. So it's not. So they decided, okay, Nyaga becomes the governor. Then after that, I was requested that I become the deputy governor of Nyaga. And I thought, no, me and Nyaga, we were basically the same age mates, we were work peers, and I thought it was not going to work. At that time, Nyaga was at Retirement Benefits Authority as a startup person. So I said, why don't I go to where Nyaga, Retirement Benefits Authority. So that's how Nyaga went to Central Bank. Me, I went to take over from him when he was starting the Retirement Benefits Authority. That's how I found myself in RBA.
Okay. Yeah. Now, many people, maybe they hear about Retirement Benefits Authority, but they do not know exactly what Retirement Benefits Authority is all about. Could you explain what the Retirement Benefits Authority does, what its mandate is, and what is its role, especially in terms of regulation of pension? Yeah.
What I would say, just to briefly for people to understand so that it's not complicated, some of the objective is to supervise and manage retirement industry. Okay? They supervise and regulate the retirement industry. And also it's a body which normally advises the minister on policy related to national policy related to retirement. And one important thing, they also protect the interests of members of the schemes. That's a very critical one. So that where their interests as scheme members are protected from where they work. And that's why we have one law which says when you retire, even if you have loans, they cannot touch your loan. Before, people would retire, and because money was within the institution, and the employer will just take it and say, no, you have a debt, or you stole from us, and they take. But when we came up with the rule, we put a Chinese wall. I put in a Chinese wall and say, pension money is not for
a specific purpose.
For a specific purpose, therefore you can't touch it. So even if somebody has a loan or claiming that he has stolen, take him to court, but you don't touch his money. So that's why we separated the pension funds and the institutions.
I think let's emphasize that point, that pension and retirement benefits are insulated from any other liabilities of the employer to the employer.
Yes.
And it cannot be taken by the employer,
the employer cannot touch
for
it.
that purpose.
For that purpose, yes.
Okay.
And when an employer doesn't remit it, it's a crime. You have to pay because that money belongs to the... It vests on the employee immediately.
For a specific purpose. And that is retirement. Yeah. Okay. So, so what else does the Retirement Benefits Authority do? Okay, other than the policy issue, I know there's an enforcement part of it, enforcement of compliance by the schemes themselves. So could you talk about that also?
If you look at the schemes, apart from the rules and regulations that we put in place, there are issues to do with investments. So investment, we came up with an investment guideline. The idea behind the investment guideline, in those days we found that people are putting so much money in buildings. And buildings you cannot easily get the cost. So a lot of money was getting lost there. And that's why we came up with guidelines to be applied with schemes. Say, okay, property should only be 30%. And then government securities would be almost, that time it's about 90% now. And then we have also stocks about 7%. So we had put limits that you cannot put more than so much into the investments. So the idea was to make sure we diversify. Now they have so many classes of investment they have come up with, which I think is the investment guideline. That time there were just a few. But the idea behind it was to be able to diversify investments so that the scheme doesn't put all its money in one investment.
Yeah, I know, and I know we have the limits as per the rules, the RBA rules. And I would like us to talk about if the same rules that apply to the schemes themselves, do you think they can apply to me as an individual investor? Or they shouldn't? Because I think what you're saying is the principle is diversification of investments, both in terms of the risk and return aspect of it. So I would like you to talk about the various classes of the bigger classes of assets and each of them, and tell us what are the pros and the cons. Why should I put my money in one and not in the other? So that I have a good, well diversified and